Hi, welcome again. In this video, we are going to learn about T-SQL. And then once we understand the T-SQL, we are going to also understand the stored procedure. So before the stored procedure, we need to know what is a variable and how we can use of a variable. How we can make use of a variable basically. So let's see. And before we understand, before we start T-SQL, let's also see why we need variables. So for any programming languages, SQL Server also supports T-SQL, which is nothing but SQL language only, script language only. So here we need some temporarily single space where we can hold something like a cup, like a coffee mug or something. So we need some space in the memory, which is very temporarily. It means we just need something to be there for some time, and once we are done, we don't need that space. So those spaces created in the RAM, server RAM, or it managed by SQL Server. It controlled, managed, and accessed by SQL Server. So let's say, suppose you have a 1 GB of your space of your pen drive or your system hard disk, right? In that, if you wanted to allocate 1 byte space for something, maybe for your photo or something, maybe for 1 MB for your photo, right? So your photo also, when you store in your hard disk or wherever you're on your phone or wherever it is, it takes some space. Once you delete that photo, it will be gone because you don't need it. Maybe after 10 years, you don't need some photo which you took. In the same way, variable also happens in the same way. We use them, we create them, we store if we need something temporarily. Once we are done, we don't need it. So variables are not permanent. Few things we have to remember. Variables are not permanent. It's the purpose of variable itself is temporary. Okay. So now we know variables. So how to define the variables? That is what we are going to learn. I hope you remember our previous sessions on data types. So in the data types, we have seen if we wanted to deal with a string or characters or names or description or these kind of alphabets, characters, then what we'll use? We'll use varchar. If we have to use something numbers, then we have gone through the numeric data types, integer, big int, float, decimals, right? So there is a new data types also, which we haven't talked about, which is money, which is not new, which came in 2014. But for our introduction, when we discussed many data types. Okay. In the same way, what data types we have to provide to a variable? Most of the students also ask those questions. How do we decide which data types we have to give when we create variables? So again, it depends on the need. Now, how do we relate a variable with a SQL tables, SQL columns? So when we define and create a tables, we also provide data types. When we define columns, we say, okay, first name is varchar, we say salary is money, so employee ID is int, right? We define many data types when we create tables and columns. In the same way, suppose in the future, you are going to maybe filter something from the employee table based on the employee ID, and you want temporarily some variable, then in your variable should be as a type of int. It's as simple as that. If we wanted to in the future, we wanted to compare, we wanted to do the filtering, we have seen where, we have seen order by, right? Suppose we have some purpose, then our variable also has to be that same data types, what we have created for the specific column in the table. Okay, so let's first understand the T-SQL. Afterwards, we'll know what is actually how to create variable, how to assign, how to declare, how to make use of it, how to print, how to retrieve the data from the variables. After that, we can learn store procedure in the same video. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so to declare a variable, we have to say declare means to define a variable. How do we actually describe a variable that we wanted to create a variable? How do we convey our syntax to the SQL Server so it understand and create a variable for us, right? So let's say declare @ At the rate means something which we are as a user we are creating. Then let's say we wanted to say employee ID, and then it has to be type as int. Okay, done. So this is how we create a variable. So this is a creation part. This is how we create a variable. Now, how do we set a value in a variable? So to set a value, there are 2-3 ways, but first let's see the first way. Very easy. Set, using the set keyword, and then employee ID. You can see now. You can see here at the time of the set a variable means it is created. Now we are just assigning something, A equal to B. It's as simple as that, So some of my students also try to give the data types here again, because they still think that still wherever we have to write variables, they have to define the data types. No, this is a creation part. This is basically a definition. We are defining, we are declaring a variable. After that, it knows what that particular variable belongs to which data type. We don't need to define each and every time. Okay, now we have assigned it. So this is called assignment. Third, if you want to retrieve it, this is how we can retrieve it. We can fetch the data. Fetch what's the value we want. Okay, so let me show you. Now you can see declaring, creating, assigning 10 and printing, retrieving the 10. So it is very simple. Now if you run these commands one by one, see if I'll select this and execute, okay, done, there is no problem. But if I'll select this and try to execute, it will say, I don't know where is that employee ID variable, right? So many of my students also do this. They do line by line. So variable is something that temporarily allocated, that if you wanted to use it, you use it with session. Now what is session? Okay, do you see I have connected this SQL Server? So when I have connected this SQL query 11, right? So you can see I have connected to this username, bita admin, and local server. So whenever we connect something, SQL Server create a session, okay, saying that, okay, this guy is asking me for some request, maybe retrieving some data or inserting some data or creating something. So that particular moment when we send some request to the SQL Server, that is nothing but a session. Now whatever comes inside the session, those set of code, those scripts are part of the session. Now in one of the command, when we say execute, it means we are sending, in one of the session we are sending set of commands to execute. So this is what the session is defined. When we make a request, when we hit execute, it goes to the SQL Server and it tries to execute. So now when I do this, it goes to the SQL Server and try to execute. SQL Server says, yes, variable is created, but you have not used it. So SQL Server does not care about if you will not use it. It's fine if you wanted to create a variable. Now it says, if you wanted to use a variable, make sure you use within the same session. So uses of a variable, assignment of a variable, and you want to use that variable value, then it has to be come through one session. Means you have to run it together, all the command related to a variable which you need. Okay, so now here, if I'll do like that, then it will work. Okay, so make sure when you play with the variables, wherever you are using that variable values or you are doing some assignment, make sure you put it under one session. Otherwise, SQL Server will not allocate memory. Now, little bit of theoretical part. So just understand, this is our hard disk. This is managed by SQL Server. Okay. In this space, when we say employee ID, when we send this command, okay, when we send this command to the SQL Server say, okay, you want to create an employee ID. So what it will do? It will create a box here. This box address is 103, let's say. So for every space in the hard disk, there is a address, like how we also have addresses of our home. In the same way, every bits and pieces inside the hard disk also has a binary spaces, binary addresses. Okay. every byte, every piece inside the hard disk has a space. Otherwise, how does SQL Server can store something and can retrieve something if there is no address where it will go and where it will fetch, right? But these things will not be shown to you. It will not tell you what address it has saved. It's internal. It's a security concern, right? It will never tell user where the table data is get stored. Otherwise, hackers and thief will actually exactly go and read that particular segment of the hard disk. Okay. So now we know whenever we say a variable, it will allocate a space in a box, an empty box with only for that session. Once this session is served, this box will be demolished. It will be wiped out from the memory. Okay. So SQL Server, the moment it reads, it's create a box in a memory. So this is how a variable works. If you create 3 variables, it will create 3 boxes. Okay. And now we are a little more comfortable what is a variable and how SQL Server takes the request and how it serves, how it assigns and retrieve the data, right? So now we are comfortable with that approach. Now let's see a little more. And suppose I wanted to use this variable in my query, in my SQL query. So let's say, first let me see the employee tables. Yeah, let's see. So I just press Control E for selecting this line. Now we have to start using shortcut, right? Now you are also getting comfortable. So get yourself comfortable. Instead of going to the execute button, you can use F5. You can use Control E if you are a Windows user. Okay. So you can see there are 2 employees here. One John and second is James, right? Now I'm changing the value here. Now I want where employee ID. So this is what I can compare a variable as well. You see, this is a variable, this is a column. So I'm comparing that out of all the employees, I only need the data for the employee ID 1 because here it is a 1. So this is little bit of T-SQL programming now. Now we have to understand the programming because we are going to learn procedures and many other things, functions, many other things in our upcoming videos. Okay. So now you can see, select star from employees where employee ID equal to employee ID variable. So this is a column, this is a variable. Many of my students also get confused here. Sometimes they will do vice versa. They will keep the variable first and after that they will keep the column. It doesn't matter. SQL Server knows what to compare. It's fine. You can write this way or that way. It doesn't matter. Okay. But make sure if you are comparing a variable, you at least have a symbol of @ Now this @ is a symbol of user created variables. So there are many things many variables which are system defined. Means system also has few variables which we can't get it, which we can't know. Suppose you wanted to know something, which we'll learn in our try and catch and error handling, how many system variables we have, but for now just remember @ it's a user defined, user created variables. If you see double @ it means it's a system defined for some purpose, definitely, like how we use get date, we get the current date. In the same way, if you are using, if you wanted to leverage SQL Server defined variables, you can use double @ and use those variables. For now, let's see. Again, just to run this line, I need to run the entire query in one session. I can't simply run the line number 9. Remember, right? You remember how it allocated a space in a memory and then how it execute and it wiped out once the session is done, Okay, so I have to select and then execute. You see, this is a result of this, that we wanted to see what's the variable value. This is a result of table. So we are filtering here based on the variable. Okay, now let's do some more operations. What else we can do? Now I am going to comment this so that you have seen this. Okay, so comment in the sense, comment means this code will not get executed. Okay, so now let's see. I want to declare one more A, okay, int b with the comma, we can create a number of variables as well. Okay, C int. Okay, now I can say set a 10, set. I can also do in one shot, but I'm doing separately so that it will be very clear for you. You guys won't need to worry. Okay, now I can also say set C equal to A plus. Okay, let's run it. Okay, after that I wanted to print it, right? I wanted to print it, means I want to see it, what goes into this C. So if you see A plus B 10 plus 20 is 30, so you can get the 30 here. You see now? So here we are trying to perform a addition. So variable is actually that we can make use of subtraction, addition, multiplication, divided by. We can do many other things. So it can also be used for expression based, like how we did for summation, subtraction, anything. Now, what else we can do with the variables? Now, variables also can be used, or in the future you will see we will be using this to sending the values in many objects. What are those database objects? Those are procedures, functions. So there you will be seeing a variable, but what we will call there, we'll call that parameters. The definition and declaration part will remain the same. We have to define a variable, but we are using that variable as a parameter. Parameter means something is there and we want to supply a couple of things. So those we call parameters in normal English. In the same way, these are called parameters in the future when we learn procedures and functions. Okay. What else we can do with variables? So variables also can be used as a part of query filters. We can also make use of in order by. We can also do in select statements. Let's see something. Let's see one of the select statement. Let's say, yeah, we have a age here. Okay, yeah, we have an age column. Good. So now I'm going to comment this, and I'm going to say select star from employees. Here I wanted to make new column with the help of variable. Okay, so I can say age plus C, new age. I wanted to give a new column. So before you give a new column, this when we give as is nothing but representing here whenever we are defining or declaring a new column. So this is we call aliasing. It means giving another name of your column. It is called aliasing, means giving the another name of the same object. Okay, so we can put it in the bracket if you want to. It's not mandatory. Okay, but it looks more convenient when you put brackets. If you have some plus, addition, subtraction, you always try to have it using brackets. Okay, let's see. Now do you see there is a new column which is added in the query, which is age plus C, which is added 30 into this, 30 into this, you see. So this is how we can also use. We have already seen in the where class. Now this is I have already shown you in select statement. Okay. Now the last thing, I also wanted to show you how, what are the other ways to assign a variable value. Okay, so let's see that. Using the select also, we can do that. I'm going to comment this. Using the select is same as the set, okay? But there is one problem. Now this select is performing as a set, so it's not going to return you something, a value of a C. Let's see it. Here what you're doing, you see there is no result. You just want A plus B equal to C. So select is performing here basically assignment, assigning A plus B. It's not, you're not trying to retrieve the value of C. If you want to retrieve the value of C, what you have to write? You have to write select C. Or you can do print also. Print means, let's see the print also. Print means there are two things when we do, when we execute anything, right? Let's say, let me show you all the things, You see, there are two things whenever we run a results. One is result window, another is message window. So messages are about what action has been happened, what query has done. Your query has done deletion, insertion, update, or something. Then it will say one row affected, means one row has been retrieved, one row has been manipulated, or something. Maybe you deleted 2 rows, so then it will say 2 rows affected. It means you deleted 2 rows. So there are two things to see a results. Few things we just need the information, but we don't need in our result statements. Few things we just need as a part of information, as a part of to know what's going on in the background, but we don't want this to appear in our result set. In that case, we can make use of print. Okay. If you want something to be shown in the result, we have to use select. So print is for logging in the message window, console, something. Okay, sorry. I hope you see right here and here. So this is coming from the print command. What you see in the result set, this is coming using the select statement. Okay. So I hope you have seen 3 types of uses of a variable. We have done the addition. You can try subtraction or divided by or multiply by. You can do when you do practice. We have seen in the where condition. We have seen in the select statements. We have seen within the variables C A plus B, right? So we have seen now we are little comfortable with playing with starting a T-SQL, right? Now we know what is a variable, what actually get stored. So now it's good time that we can learn procedures now. So thank you. In our next video, we are going to learn the procedure.